the galaxy was never silent. For thousands of years, the alien empires ruled the stars with fear, power, and control. New species were discovered, and every one of them had only two choices: surrender or die. No one resisted for long. Civilizations bent their knees, fleets were crushed, and planets were turned into dust. The Galactic Council believed no race could stand against them. But then, their eyes turned toward a small blue planet called Earth. They expected the same result. They expected fear. They expected surrender. What they did not expect was silence. It began with a single message that appeared in every human communication system, from satellites in orbit to radios in hidden villages. The words were not polite. They were not kind. The message was cold and sharp like a knife. Humans of Earth, surrender. Hand over your planet, your weapons, and your future. If you do not, we will erase you from the stars. The voice was alien, layered with tones that did not sound natural, but the meaning was clear. It was a demand, not a request. On alien worlds across the galaxy, leaders laughed when they heard the Council's order. They remembered the faces of other conquered races, the fear in their eyes, the hopeless begging for mercy. To them, humans were no different. Primitive. Weak. Children standing in front of giants. The aliens imagined Earth already broken, its cities burning, its people crying. They toasted in celebration, believing the war was over before it even began. But on Earth, the reaction was not what the galaxy expected. People gathered around screens, radios, and loudspeakers, listening to the alien demand. Fear was there, yes, but something else was stronger. There was silence, deep silence, as if the entire planet held its breath. No message of surrender was sent back. No begging. No panic. Only silence. The Council waited for the answer. Hours passed. Then a day. Then 2. But Earth said nothing. The aliens grew impatient. They believed silence meant confusion, hesitation, weakness. But to humanity, silence meant something else. Far beneath the surface of the planet, hidden deep under mountains and oceans, humans were not frozen in fear. They were working. Old bases that no outsider knew about began to stir with life. Generators roared, screens lit up, and secret hangars slowly opened. The galaxy had no idea that humanity had been preparing for something like this for decades. For the people of Earth, survival was never just a hope. It was a plan. In one of these underground bases, a commander sat in front of a glowing screen. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. Around him, officers whispered, engineers rushed, and soldiers checked their weapons. The air was heavy with tension. Yet the commander did something strange. He smiled. It was not the smile of a man defeated. It was not the smile of a man who had lost hope. It was the smile of someone who knew something the enemy did not. That smile would soon spread far beyond the walls of that hidden room. Alien spies, hidden among the human population, reported back to their masters. They described strange things. Humans were not panicking in the streets. Instead, many were calm, some even laughing quietly. Families hugged each other, not in despair, but with a strange confidence. Soldiers trained harder, scientists worked faster, and leaders spoke in whispers behind closed doors. It was as if the people of Earth knew something that no one else could see. The aliens called it madness. The Council called it arrogance. But humans called it something else. Hope. The galaxy had crushed many species before. But none of those species had ever smiled at the face of destruction. To the Council, a smile meant weakness, foolishness. To humanity, a smile meant defiance. It meant that they were not broken, not yet, and perhaps not ever. Every day the silence grew louder. Every day, the galaxy grew more confused. And every day, more humans began to wear that same mysterious smile. Finally, after a week, the Council's patience began to fade. Their fleets moved closer to the solar system. Thousands of warships gathered near the edge of human space. Their weapons charged, Their engines burned like fire across the dark void. The council sent another message, sharper and louder than the first. Earth, this is your last chance. Surrender, or be destroyed. Again, silence was the only answer. But inside Earth's hidden bases, silence did not mean fear. It meant timing. It meant patience. And when the moment came, when the council believed Earth had no answer, the humans were ready. Somewhere in the darkness of space, a signal flashed. Machines awakened. Engines roared like thunder. Something long hidden began to rise. In that underground command room, the commander watched the alien fleet gather on the screens. His officers looked to him for orders. Some were nervous, some were angry. But the commander's smile only grew wider. He leaned forward and whispered words that no alien could hear, words that would soon change the fate of the galaxy forever. Let them believe we are weak. Let them laugh. They will not laugh for long. And so the stage was set. The galaxy thought it was watching the fall of Earth. But in truth, it was witnessing the beginning of something far greater. The demand had been made. The threat had been given. But Earth was not afraid. Humanity's silence was not surrender. It was the calm before the storm. The galaxy waited for Earth's answer, but the silence never ended. Every alien leader believed it was only a matter of time before humans finally begged for mercy. Yet day after day, no reply came. No surrender. No fear. The council grew restless. They ordered their spies to look deeper. The spies sent back strange reports that made no sense. Humans were not panicking. They were not hiding in fear. Instead, they were smiling. It began with the commander deep underground. His smile was small at first, almost hidden, but his officers saw it. They could not understand. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy was waiting to destroy them, and yet their leader looked as if he had already won. At first the officers thought it was madness, but soon, the same smile appeared on their faces too. It spread like fire in dry grass. Soldiers in hidden bases began to smile when they saw the commander's image. Workers building machines in secret factories smiled while they worked. Even farmers in distant villages, who knew nothing about weapons or war, smiled when they spoke about the future. The aliens watching from orbit could not understand it. They had seen fear 1,000 times before. They had seen screaming, crying, and surrender. But they had never seen this. To them, a smile was weakness, a desperate mask before death. But to humanity, it was something else. It was defiance. It was the refusal to bow. And it was a promise that something was coming. In the great council chamber, alien voices rose in anger. "What are they planning?" one demanded. "Why do they not respond?" shouted another. Some believed humans were trying to trick them with false confidence. Others said it was only the madness of a dying species. But the reports kept coming, and every report said the same thing. Humans were calm. Humans were united. Humans were smiling. Meanwhile, inside Earth's secret facilities, machines that had been silent for decades came alive. Deep in the oceans, huge hangar doors opened and water boiled with the heat of ancient engines. Beneath mountains, vast chambers shook as hidden weapons were powered up. In orbit, satellites that had once looked like junk began to move again, their metal shells opening like the wings of sleeping giants. The galaxy thought Earth was weak, but Earth had been preparing for a moment exactly like this. The smiles were not madness. They were confidence. The people remembered their history. Humanity had faced extinction before, wars, disasters, and enemies stronger than themselves. Each time, they had survived. Each time, they had risen higher. This time would be no different. That was why they smiled. Because they knew what the aliens did not. They knew the true power of Earth was not just weapons. It was unity. In the streets of cities, children asked their parents why the aliens had threatened them. Some parents tried to explain, others stayed silent, but all of them carried the same expression. The children saw the smiles and began to copy them. In schools, in markets, in factories, people carried on with their lives, but under the surface, they were preparing for war. The Council's spies reported back in frustration. They could not understand why a species so close to destruction looked so calm. The alien fleet commander orbiting near Mars grew tired of waiting. He ordered his ships to move closer, to test Earth's defenses. Thousands of alien eyes watched from across the galaxy, expecting the humans to finally break. But Earth still said nothing. Instead, transmissions were caught, short messages between humans, too fast to translate, too complex to decode. The aliens thought it was panic. But in truth, it was coordination. The humans were moving like pieces on a chessboard, setting up their play. Then something strange happened. One alien patrol ship, scanning near the asteroid belt, vanished without warning. No explosion, no distress signal, just gone. The Council dismissed it as an accident, perhaps a collision with rock or machine failure. But then another ship vanished. And another. Whispers spread. Could it be human weapons? No one believed it at first. How could Earth, a primitive world, destroy advanced alien ships? Yet the evidence was there, and the smiles of humans now looked even more dangerous. Back in the Council chamber, fear began to creep in. Leaders argued louder, but none had answers. Perhaps they have allies, some whispered. Perhaps they have stolen our technology. Others shook their heads. No allies had been detected, no proof of stolen weapons. The only thing certain was this: humans were not afraid. They had something hidden, and they were waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. In the underground command center, the human commander stood before a giant map of the solar system. Red lights showed alien fleets surrounding Earth like hunters closing in on prey. Yet he did not look worried. His officers asked for orders, but he only raised his hand, silencing them. Then he said something that echoed through the chamber. The galaxy thinks we are weak. Let them believe it. The longer they laugh, the harder they will fall. The officers felt a chill. They understood now. The smile was not madness. It was strategy. That night, across Earth, people looked up at the stars. They knew alien warships were out there, engines burning like fireflies in the dark. But instead of fear, there was something else. Excitement, hope, defiance. Humanity's smile had become a weapon of its own. It was a signal to every man, woman, and child: we will not break. We will not bow. We will not surrender. And so the galaxy's confusion grew. For the first time in centuries, the Council felt something they had not felt in a long time: doubt. They had demanded surrender, but all they received in return was silence. Silence and smiles. The alien fleets believed the end of Earth was close. But in truth, the beginning of their nightmare had already started. Humanity's smile was not a sign of weakness. It was the calm before the storm. The alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their ships glowed with power, engines burning like small suns. Thousands of cannons pointed toward the blue world below. To them, Earth looked fragile, soft, and unprepared. The commanders of the Galactic Council laughed at the thought of such a weak species standing against them. Yet inside their laughter, a shadow of unease began to form. Because even now, Earth had still not replied. The silence was too long. The smiles were too strange. Something did not feel right. The first test came when a squad of alien scout ships was sent to orbit near Earth's moon. Their job was simple: scan the planet, record the defenses, and prepare the way for the main armada. At first, everything seemed normal. They saw cities glowing with lights, satellites floating quietly, and no visible warships in orbit. It looked exactly as they expected: weak, vulnerable, and ready to fall. But then, something odd began to happen. The scanners flickered. Strange signals cut across their instruments, like whispers hidden inside the static. The alien pilots tried to correct the interference, but the signals kept coming. They were not natural. They were too sharp, too precise. At first, the aliens believed it was a mistake in their own systems. But then, All their ships received the same burst of coded signals at the same time. It was not a mistake. It was a message. And it came from Earth. They tried to translate it, but the meaning was locked. The patterns were complex, shifting too fast for their machines to follow. To the aliens, it was nonsense. But to humans, it was something else. Those signals were guiding hidden machines, deep in space, machines that no alien had ever seen. The scouts did not know it yet, but they were already being watched. Back on Earth, in a secret base hidden under the Pacific Ocean, operators tracked the alien scouts with quiet eyes. One officer turned to the commander and asked, "Do we strike now?" The commander shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "Let them come closer. Let them think we are blind." His smile returned, sharp as a blade. Around him, the operators nodded. The longer the aliens believed Earth was weak, the stronger humanity's hand would be when it was revealed. The alien scouts sent their data back to the Council. "Earth has no defense," their report declared. "No warships. No fleets. Nothing." The Council cheered when they heard this. They raised their voices in victory before the battle had even begun. But not everyone was convinced. A few older leaders sat in silence, their eyes narrowed. They had seen something in the human silence, something that did not fit the pattern of other conquered races. One of them whispered, "There is a shadow here. Something we cannot see." But his voice was drowned out by the Council's laughter. That same night, the alien scouts orbiting near the moon disappeared. No explosion was detected. No distress signal was sent. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone, erased from the stars as if they had never existed. The Council received no warning. The fleet commander believed it was an error in the reports, perhaps a malfunction in the scouts' engines. He dismissed it quickly. After all, how could Earth have such power? How could a primitive species erase ships without even firing a weapon? But inside the hidden command centers of Earth, the truth was clear. Humanity had struck for the first time. Silent weapons, hidden in the shadows of space, had awakened. These weapons were not giant cannons or glowing beams. They were invisible, clever, and precise. They attacked not with brute force, but with silence. The aliens never even realized they were targets until they were gone. The next day, more scouts went missing. This time, entire squadrons vanished, swallowed by the void. The alien fleet commander grew furious. He shouted at his officers, demanding answers. "Is this sabotage? Is this rebellion among our own?" His officers shook their heads. The evidence was undeniable. Something was hunting them, and the only possible source was Earth. Still, the commander refused to believe. "They are too weak," he roared. "They cannot do this. They are nothing." Yet even as he spoke, the whispers of fear spread through his fleet. Pilots began to question their orders. Soldiers looked at their scanners with nervous eyes. For the first time, the alien fleet felt something they had not felt in centuries. Vulnerability. On Earth, the commander watched all of this from his screens. He saw the alien fleet moving cautiously now, no longer full of confidence. He saw their formation breaking as fear spread among them. And he smiled again. "They are learning," he said softly. "But they are learning too late." His officers nodded, their eyes filled with determination. They knew the shadows of power now belonged to humanity. As more alien scouts vanished, the Council finally realized something was wrong. The laughter in their chambers faded. The whispers of doubt grew louder. They demanded answers, but no one had them. All they knew was this: Earth was not what it seemed. Something hidden was moving in the dark, and it was stronger than anyone had imagined. The galaxy watched in silence as rumors spread. Some said humans had built invisible warships. Others believed they had discovered weapons older than the stars themselves. None knew the truth, but all agreed on one thing. The smiles of humanity were no longer strange. They were terrifying. And so the shadows deepened. The Council had demanded surrender. They had prepared to crush Earth in a single strike. But now, with every passing day, more of their ships vanished into silence. The shadows of power had shifted. For the first time, it was not the Council controlling the fear. It was Earth. Humanity's silence, humanity's smiles, and humanity's shadows had begun to change the balance of the galaxy. The alien armada finally arrived in full strength. Thousands of ships, each armed with weapons strong enough to erase cities, moved into position around Earth. Their formation covered the sky like a cage of fire. The Council had grown tired of waiting. The vanishing scouts were dismissed as accidents. They told themselves humans were too weak, too primitive, too small to fight against such overwhelming power. In their minds, this battle was already over. But inside the underground command center, humans were calm. The commander stood before a large screen that showed the alien fleet in orbit. Every red marker represented death, yet he did not flinch. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders, but again, he only smiled. "They believe they are the hunters," he said quietly. "But tonight, they will learn who is prey." The Council broadcast their final demand. Their voice thundered through every human device, every radio, every screen. "People of Earth, surrender now. This is your last chance. Hand over your planet and your future, or you will be destroyed." The words echoed across every city, every home. Children held their parents' hands, soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons, and scientists stopped their work to listen. All of Earth waited for the answer. For a long moment, the world remained silent. The aliens believed Earth had finally broken. Then a single message was transmitted across every frequency. It was only one word, sharp and clear. No, that single word struck the galaxy like a thunderbolt. It was not a plea. It was not a threat. It was defiance in its purest form. Humanity had spoken. They would not surrender. The alien commanders laughed at the message. "One word," they mocked. "Is this their great resistance? Is this their courage?" To them, the answer was foolish. To humans, it was power. That no was more than a refusal. It was a promise. And promises are far heavier than threats. The order was given. Alien weapons lit up the dark sky, beams of light and fire raining down toward Earth. But before they could strike, something moved. Hidden deep in Earth's crust, buried beneath mountains and oceans, the first human weapon awoke. A colossal cannon, silent for decades, roared with power. It did not fire light or fire. Instead, it unleashed a ripple, invisible and unstoppable. The ripple spread across space like a silent wave, and when it touched the alien fleet, the stars themselves seemed to blink. One by one, alien warships collapsed. Their engines died, their weapons turned cold, their shields shattered like glass. The ripple passed through them, as if tearing out their very breath. To the aliens, it was impossible. To the humans, it was only the beginning. Within seconds, entire squadrons floated powerless, drifting like dead metal. Panic spread through the fleet. Captains screamed for answers. Engineers tried to restart their systems, but nothing worked. Their pride, their strength, their empire was crumbling in silence. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Leaders demanded explanations, but none could be given. "What weapon is this?" they shouted. "How did Earth build such power?" But the truth was simple. Humanity had never been weak. They had been waiting, preparing, hiding their strength until the moment came. And now, with one word and one strike, they had shown the galaxy their teeth. On Earth, people cheered as the news spread. They saw alien ships falling from the sky, powerless and broken. For the first time in history, the galaxy's most powerful fleet had been stopped, not by another empire, not by ancient gods, but by humans, by the same species the galaxy had called weak and primitive. In that moment, humanity's smile grew wider than ever. The alien fleet commander stared in horror as his ships died around him. His officers begged for retreat, but his pride chained him. "We are the Council's fleet," he roared. We cannot be defeated by a primitive race. But his words sounded hollow, even to his own soldiers. Their fear was greater than his pride. Inside the underground command center, the human commander gave his next order. Strike again. Another hidden weapon answered, this time from orbit. A satellite disguised as space junk opened its wings, revealing cannons that had slept in silence for years. Beams of pure energy lanced across the void, cutting through alien ships like blades through paper. Explosions lit the dark sky as more and more ships were destroyed. The galaxy watched in silence. Billions of eyes saw the impossible become real. The invincible fleet of the Council, the same fleet that had destroyed countless civilizations, was being erased by Earth. Some alien leaders trembled in fear. Others raged in denial. But all of them understood one truth: humanity was no longer prey. The battle lasted only minutes. The alien fleet, so proud and confident, was broken before it even began. Hundreds of ships drifted dead in orbit. The survivors turned and fled, engines burning with desperation. The Council's great armada had been shattered by a single planet they believed would kneel without a fight. In the command center, silence filled the room. Officers stared at the screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. Slowly, they turned to their commander. He stood tall, his smile sharper than ever. They asked us to surrender, he said. Tonight, we answered. His words echoed through the chamber, heavy and certain. That night, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol. A single word had shaken the galaxy. A single strike had rewritten history. Humanity had shown the stars that they would not kneel, they would not break, and they would not be erased. The first strike had fallen, and it belonged to Earth. The galaxy shook after the battle near Earth. The Council's fleet, once believed unstoppable, was destroyed in minutes. Alien empires across the stars sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the broken remains of ships drifting near the blue planet. Rumors spread faster than light. Some said Earth had discovered lost technology from ancient races. Others whispered that humans had made a pact with something far darker, something even the Council feared. No one knew the truth, but one fact could not be denied: Earth had done the impossible. On alien worlds, ordinary citizens gathered in fear and confusion. They asked their leaders the same question: how could a single planet defeat the greatest fleet in the galaxy? The leaders gave no answers. Even the Council itself had no explanation. Their pride was wounded, their image broken. For centuries they had ruled with strength, and now, a species they once called primitive had humiliated them in front of the entire galaxy. Inside the Council chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. The leaders argued loudly, their voices echoing like thunder. They must have stolen our technology, shouted one. No, another replied. This is something else, something we have never seen before. Some demanded that a new armada be built, larger than ever before. Others suggested retreat, warning that attacking again might bring even greater shame. But none could hide the truth burning in their hearts: fear. Back on Earth, the people celebrated quietly. The battle had been won, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. The commander walked through the underground base, his boots echoing against steel floors. Soldiers stood straighter as he passed, engineers paused their work, and officers saluted. They all carried the same expression, the mysterious smile that had confused the galaxy. But now, that smile carried new meaning. It was no longer just defiance. It was pride. In a briefing room, the commander addressed his officers. They will come again, he said, his voice calm and steady. The Council will not accept this defeat. But they do not understand us. They believe the weapons we used were our greatest strength. They are wrong. Our strength is not what we revealed, but what we are still hiding. His words sent a shiver through the room. If the weapons used in the first strike were not Earth's strongest, then what else waited in the shadows? Alien spies who survived on Earth tried to report what they had seen. Their messages were intercepted, distorted, and silenced. Still, fragments escaped. Those fragments painted a terrifying picture. They spoke of weapons hidden under oceans, of satellites disguised as debris, of ships never seen before. They spoke of a commander who smiled while his enemies died. When these reports reached alien worlds, panic spread. If the Council could not control humans, then who could? The galaxy's smaller empires began to whisper to one another. For generations, they had lived under the Council's shadow, forced to pay tribute and obey their laws. Now, for the first time, they saw a chance. Earth's defiance gave them hope. If humans could resist, maybe others could too. The Council sensed this growing unrest, and it terrified them. Their power was slipping, not because of war, but because of fear. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations continued. Factories worked day and night, building machines never before revealed to the public. New ships were assembled in orbit, their designs hidden by cloaking fields. Scientists unlocked projects that had been sealed away for years, inventions too dangerous to reveal until now. Humanity was no longer preparing for survival. They were preparing for dominance. In the command center, the screens showed reports from across the galaxy. The commander watched them silently. His officers asked him what would happen if the Council attacked with everything they had. He only smiled and said, "Then they will see the truth. They think they know our power, but they have only seen a shadow." His words carried weight, and the officers understood. The revelation had not yet come. The galaxy had seen only the beginning. The Council debated endlessly. Some wanted to crush Earth with overwhelming force, to erase the humiliation. Others feared another disaster, greater than the first. The thought haunted them, if Earth could destroy one fleet so easily, what would happen to an armada 10 times larger? Would they be walking into their own destruction? The doubt was poison, spreading through the hearts of even the strongest leaders. And still, the humans smiled. They sent no threats, no boasts, no promises of peace. They only worked in silence, their confidence unshaken. To the galaxy, that silence was more terrifying than any weapon. Because silence meant patience, and patience meant planning. The Council could not understand why humans refused to speak, but they knew one thing for certain: the humans were not afraid. Finally, a secret transmission was intercepted by one of the Council's intelligence units. It was a human voice, distorted but clear. The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of a storm. "We have not yet used our strongest weapon." The transmission ended, leaving only silence behind. The Council leaders stared at one another, their pride collapsing into dread. If what the humans had used was not their strongest, then what horrors were waiting in the dark? Across the galaxy, fear grew. For the first time in history, the Council was not feared. Humanity was. The revelation was spreading, not through human words, but through alien whispers. The message was clear: Earth was not weak. Earth was not prey. Earth was the storm that the galaxy had never expected. The Council could no longer hide their shame. Their first fleet had been destroyed, their pride broken, and their enemies were whispering across the galaxy. Every empire watched closely, waiting to see what would happen next. Some secretly hoped Earth would rise even higher. Others prayed the Council would crush humanity quickly before the balance of power shattered completely. But all of them felt the same thing: fear. The Council gathered once again in their great chamber, voices echoing in anger and confusion. "We cannot let this stand," shouted one leader. "If we do nothing, every race will rise against us." Another slammed his fist against the table. "Then we erase Earth with everything we have." The room fell into silence at those words. They all knew what that meant. The Grand Armada. Never before in history had it been unleashed in full. It was more than a fleet. It was the hammer of the galaxy, a weapon that had destroyed civilizations in hours. And now, it was coming for Earth. Across the stars, the Armada began to form. Thousands upon thousands of warships left their homeworlds, engines burning like fire in the night. Dreadnoughts the size of cities, carriers holding endless swarms of fighters, and ships armed with planet-killer weapons moved together like a storm of steel. Alien citizens watched from the ground as the armada passed overhead, their skies darkened by shadows of war. To them, it was a sign of power. To the humans watching from afar, it was a challenge. On Earth, the commander studied the incoming reports. His officers looked nervous as they saw the size of the armada. "It is the greatest fleet in history," one whispered. "No world has ever stood against this and survived." The commander listened quietly, then spoke in a calm voice. "No world has ever been Earth." His words carried across the room, filling every soldier and officer with a fire that no fear could put out. Preparations accelerated. In the oceans, massive war machines rose to the surface, their black hulls cutting through the waves like blades. In orbit, new ships shimmered into view, no longer hiding behind cloaking fields. Space around Earth began to change. What had once looked like a defenseless planet now revealed its true face, a fortress of steel and fire. Humanity had waited for this moment. Now they were ready. Still, the people of Earth were not foolish. They knew the Armada's power. They knew the destruction it could bring. But they also knew that surrender would mean chains, and chains were worse than death. That was why they smiled. That was why they prepared. Because even in the face of impossible odds, humanity would not bow. Finally, for the first time since the war began, Earth spoke to the galaxy. A message was transmitted across every channel, reaching every ship, every world, every corner of space. The voice was human, strong, and steady. "You told us to surrender," it said. "You told us we would be erased. But you never asked what happens when we don't." The words cut through the silence like a blade. It was not a threat. It was a warning. The last warning. The council trembled at those words. Never before had a species spoken to them with such defiance. Never before had a world refused their order so completely. But the humans were not finished. The message continued. "We will not wait for you to strike again. We will not wait for your chains. If you come for us, we will not only defend our world. We will bring the fire to yours." And then, in the skies above Earth, it began. The first of humanity's fleets ignited their engines. They were unlike any ships the galaxy had ever seen. Massive, armored, and glowing with strange energy. The fleets did not remain in orbit. Instead, they turned away from Earth and vanished into faster-than-light gates. They were not preparing to defend. They were preparing to strike first. The galaxy gasped. Billions of eyes watched as Earth's ships disappeared into the stars. Where were they going? What targets would they hit? No one knew. Fear spread like wildfire. For the first time in history, the galaxy was not afraid of the Council's armada. They were afraid of humanity's answer. In the council chamber, voices rose in panic. "They are leaving their planet undefended," one shouted. "No," another said quietly, "they are taking the war to us." The realization struck like a thunderbolt. Humanity was not waiting for survival. They were moving for victory. Back on Earth, the commander stood in silence, watching the stars on his screen. His officers asked him where the fleets were going. He only smiled, the same mysterious smile that had begun this war. "To remind the galaxy," he said, "that we are not prey. We are the hunters now." His words filled the room with silence, a silence heavier than any shout of war. The last warning had been given. Humanity had revealed their courage, their strength, and their intent. The Council's armada was coming, yes, but humanity was no longer waiting to be crushed. They had chosen their own path, and their enemies would soon see the fire of Earth not from a distance, but in their own skies. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's fleets vanished into the stars. No one knew where the humans were heading. Some believed they would strike the Council shipyards, others feared they would target entire homeworlds. But one thing was certain, Earth was no longer just defending. Humanity had chosen to attack. The Council's Grand Armada pressed forward, determined to erase Earth before its fleets could do real damage. Thousands of warships lit up the void, engines burning like suns, weapons primed to end a world. The sight alone would have broken the courage of any species. Yet when alien spies watched Earth, they saw no panic, no fear. They saw humans working calmly, soldiers preparing quietly, and leaders standing with steady eyes. And on their faces, that same mysterious smile. The Council could not understand it. Why did humans smile when faced with certain destruction? Why did they not tremble at the sight of the Armada? To the Council, it felt like mockery. To others, it felt like prophecy. Whispers spread that perhaps humans knew something no one else did. Perhaps their smile was not defiance but certainty. The truth began to frighten even those who had never feared before. In the far reaches of space, the first human strike was felt. A fleet of Council supply ships simply vanished. Hours later, reports came that their wrecks were drifting near a dead star, their destruction total and clean. Soon after, a Council shipyard exploded into fire, its defenses bypassed as if they never existed. Panic swept through the Council. The humans were striking faster than their sensors could track. Every attack was precise, ruthless, and silent. Humanity had become a shadow in the dark, a hunter that never missed. Meanwhile, the Armada drew closer to Earth. As it approached, it sent one final transmission. "Humans," the voice of a Council leader thundered, "you face the full power of the galaxy. Lay down your weapons, or your world will burn." The message was broadcast across every star, meant to show dominance. But Earth's reply came swiftly, and it was only one sentence. "You still do not understand us." The transmission ended with silence, and again, that silence was more terrifying than any threat. On Earth's surface, families gathered together. Children looked up at the skies, asking their parents if the Armada would destroy them. The parents smiled, just as the soldiers smiled, just as the commander smiled. That smile spread like fire, uniting the entire planet in one emotion. Not fear, not despair, but unshakable courage. Humanity had chosen to face the storm with pride. When the Armada finally reached Earth, its commanders were confident. They had numbers, weapons, and experience. What could one planet possibly do? But as they moved into formation, something strange happened. Their sensors lit up with false readings. Entire human fleets appeared on their radars, then vanished. Enemy ships seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Confusion spread quickly. Then the first real strike came. From behind Earth's moon, massive human warships emerged, weapons blazing with power never before seen. They cut through the first line of the Armada like fire through paper. Alien captains shouted in panic, trying to regroup, but before they could, another wave of human ships appeared from hidden gates. The battle became chaos. What was supposed to be an easy victory turned into a nightmare. The commander stood in the underground base, watching the battle unfold on giant screens. His officers reported victory after victory, but he remained calm. When one asked if they should announce their success to the galaxy, he shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "Let them see. Let them witness it with their own eyes." His mysterious smile returned, the same smile that had unsettled the Council since the beginning. News of the battle spread quickly across the stars. Millions watched in disbelief as the Armada, the greatest force in history, was torn apart. Entire squadrons surrendered rather than face certain death. Others tried to flee but were hunted down by human fleets. The Council leaders, watching in horror, realized the truth too late. Humanity had never been fighting for survival. They had been fighting to change the galaxy. At last, as the Armada broke and scattered, the humans transmitted one final message. It was not long, not full of threats or pride. It was only one sentence, spoken with calm certainty. "The age of fear is over." The message echoed across the galaxy, carried on every channel, heard by every species. And in that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The smaller empires who had long suffered under the Council felt hope rise in their hearts. The Council itself fell into silence, its power shattered, its fleets broken. And everywhere across 1,000 worlds, aliens spoke of one thing, not of Earth's weapons, not of their ships, but of the strange human smile. That smile had faced the greatest armada in history and never faltered. That smile had turned fear into courage, despair into strength. That smile had changed everything. In the end, the Council's rule was broken not by weapons alone, but by something far greater. Humanity had taught the galaxy that courage could not be erased, that freedom was worth any cost, and that a smile in the face of doom could shake empires. From that day forward, whenever the galaxy spoke of humans, they did not speak of their ships or their weapons. They spoke of the smile that changed the galaxy forever.